Hello, my wonderful spirit guides. Today I am reviewing Boy Genius's self-titled EP, Boy Genius. And yes, that does mean I have already reacted to it, and the reaction is over on Patreon. I will be involving some of my reactions within this video, but I'll try and make sure that it's highlighted so you know what bit I'm reacting to and so on. But yeah, I've only written a script for the first song, and then I'm going to write more as I go. It's going to stay in the same video, but I wanted to get going with the filming right away, so yeah, hopefully it's okay. So the first song on the album is called Bite the Hand. Bite the Hand begins with a guitar that is kind of strumming away, dun 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 dun, and that kind of strumming pattern usually has that kind of forward motion kind of feeling, so you feel like you are traveling somewhere. And then Lucy Dacus comes in with her line, "I can't hear you, you're too far away." When she hits the "you" in "I can't hear you," the chord lands on an F. And in that forward motion guitar at the start, it being a B flat, it had this kind of tension to it, and it landing on that F feels almost like it's like a comfy little moment. And then over the verse, well, over the line really, the chords move round in like a comfy kind of way before landing back into that B flat, dun 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 dun, which I found really interesting actually. And I haven't actually ever heard Lucy Dacus and her music before, but my sister loves her. My sister loves all the girls. She loves Julian Baker, she loves Phoebe Bridgers, and of course Lucy Dacus. But what I loved was that she had a very beautiful open tone. However, in this song, as the intro, the tone wasn't as open as it is throughout some of the other songs on the album, is something I noticed. But what I did love about it is the way she does it in that lazy kind of way. Gives me a little bit of Angel Olsen, and I really, really love Angel Olsen. If you've seen my reactions to Angel Olsen, then you'll know I love her. So that was really nice to hear. There's a maturity to her vocal, I find. Okay, and then when she says, "I wouldn't if I could," like, "I don't want to touch you, I wouldn't," also like, "if I could touch you, I wouldn't if I could," something like that. The big bass drum comes in, dun, dun, dun. And when that comes in after her saying, like, "I wouldn't touch you," the drum almost felt like a boundary was being made. I wouldn't touch you even if I could, you know? Very much, I wouldn't. This is the boundary. She's really laying it down. I thought that was really cool. Then all the girls sing together as the travelling guitar plays its forward pattern, but it is lower and a bit more muted. There's less reverb going on, and the chord kind of sound where it's like, blow, is a bit more dun 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 dun. It could possibly be a bass, I can't remember now. But it had a lower sound, and it was very dry, which made the whole scene feel more intimate. And it's the first time we hear all the girls sing together, and I feel like that kind of stripped back feeling yet intimate feeling is a really good stage for all the girls' vocals to like be displayed for the first time on the album together, which I don't know, I just thought it was beautiful. All the girls together. Oh. But yeah, like, even though it was stripped back, it still feels like it was brewing up to something. And yes, it crescendos once again. But instead of crescendoing into something big, it would land into like this buttery like guitar. You know what I mean? Oh, that's gorgeous. Because I found that little guitar moment to be very buttery, and I go on to say later in my script that about it being like very yellow, the color being yellow, so it makes more sense that it's buttery because it's smooth and it's yellow, how I see it in my mind. But yeah, it lures you into a false sense of calm before crescendoing into a moody chorus with a full set of drums rhythmically playing. The vocals are a big focus, as yet again all the ladies are singing together and the harmonies are so sweet. You can also hear the smooth buttery guitar wailing in amongst the instrumental, which I thought gave it such a nice touch, and it did. Because sometimes when you have, instrumental bits and you want it to sound big, you want to add more instruments, but you don't want to go too crazy. And I felt like that guitar just wailing in the background gave it an atmosphere. Yeah, it really gave it an atmosphere, which I thought was so, I don't know, just beautiful, especially because it felt very full at that time. Yeah, it's just nice. And then for the lyrics side of things in that part with it's not really a chorus. It on Genius it says it's like a second verse, but it did feel like a chorus, but in the way it was presented. But yeah, I'm going to call it a chorus, even though it's probably just another verse. But those lines, she literally says, "Here's the best part distilled for you, but you want what I can't give you. Your hands are grabbing while my hands are tied." And I mentioned in my reaction about how I loved that line, "Your hands are grabbing while my hands are tied." And I mentioned it being about two lovers, and it being, well, not lovers, someone loving someone more than them loving the other, you know what I mean, sort of situation like that. I'll probably throw it in the video. And like, I love when she said, "Your hands are grabbing while my hands are tied." Like, your hands are grabbing for me, wanting me, but mine are tied. I'm stuck here. I ain't reaching for you. I ain't. I don't want you. But when I clicked on them when I was doing my research, it says here, this is what Lucy said about the chorus/verse. "Don't feel beholden to the people that buy concert tickets. You still have to make art that's true to yourself. Don't be a people pleaser. Don't feel compelled to come out after the show because people are widely disrespectful. Even with kindness, people ask for more than anybody should give. To go out to dinner, or to kiss you on the cheek, or to have 5-minute photo session, or one-on-one therapy session. It can be extremely taxing on the road, and I think all three of us need to remember that it's okay to say no to the people that are funding your art." And absolutely so true. I remember when I went to see Ethel Cain in December, and there was one fan that was really aggressive, and just some of them just felt over the top. Like, it feels like the artist isn't even a person sometimes, and when you see it happen, it's icky, it's horrible. So this is the moment where I realized the song wasn't about a lover, it was about fans. And I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. And I thought, what an interesting thing to do, like open the album with a song saying to fans, "I know you love me, but like, chill out." I don't love you, mate. Not that much anyway. And then we hit the second refrain. And this time all the girls are going, "I don't love you like you want me to." And the drums going, dum, 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 dum. And I found that to be really impactful because, again, the big kick drum was putting emphasis on boundaries, you know, so the lines are saying, "I can't love you like you want me to." And again, that, you know, that kind of hammering drum feels like it's hammering in that notion of, you know, I can't, boom, 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 get it through your head. That's what it felt like to me, and I just thought that was so cool. But also, what I do like about the line, it's not that it's just saying, "I don't love you like you want me to." She's not saying, "I don't love you at all." She's just saying, "I don't love you the same way, like the way you want me to love you. I can only love you in my way." And that's just the way it is. I really think that's cool. I think that's cool because she's really not saying she doesn't love you, but it's just, sometimes it can be too much. Okay, so I've written here, sorry I keep going to the script. I'm not really good at doing scripted work, so I probably will be reading sometimes and then looking at, you know, whatever. Then we hear Lucy say, "Who do you think you are? Who do you think I am?" And so on, accompanied by the drums changing their rhythmic pattern into something a little more tense. Yeah, that was interesting. I'm not smart enough to know exactly what they were doing, but the snare seems to land in odd places, and that stood out a lot to me. I did try and be like, where's it landing? I could, maybe the time signature change. I'm not sure. Genuinely not great with like rhythms and timing and stuff like that. I can be now and then, but you know, I'm more of a singer and I like to produce and do little bits that I can, but I'm not perfect with all the theory stuff. So yeah, I didn't quite know what the drums were doing, but the snare felt like it was hitting in odd places and it felt tense. And what was cool is like it accompanied the, you know, words by saying, "Who do you think you are? Who do you think I am?" It's almost confrontational, yeah. So the drums gave it that tension under the confrontational lyrics, which I thought was just, oh. Oh, I love that drum. Then Lucy goes on to sing, "I'll bite the hand that feeds me," as Phoebe and Julian sing the same line in canon. The canon parts are so beautiful. The higher harmony that comes in, I think it's from Phoebe. I just love that. It was like, "Bite the hand, oh, bite the hand." I can't remember what it was, but it stood out from the rest, and it like, oh, I just love that bit. Oh my god, the vocal layers. Ooh, bite the hand. And of course, the line is great itself because Lucy is saying, like, she understands, you know, what got her to where she is, and that is the fans. She wouldn't be a big musician without the fans. But she's saying, you know, if you keep asking me questions or you keep like trying to push my boundaries, I will bite the hand that feeds me. I will do it because I can't comply at the end of the day. It's just too much and no one should have to. So she's saying, yeah, I will bite the hand that feeds me. It's a very assertive song, isn't it? Filled with multiple crescendos throughout as well. It is a constant and then it would be like a you know, it's constantly falling into new crescendos and slight releases. It's so good. And when it hits a release, it feels like you're on a beach. It does, with that guitar, that buttery guitar I was talking about. It kind of feels very beachy, and a dun 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 feels very travel-y, and it's just like, oh, just a perfect mix. But yeah, now we hit the outro where Lucy sings the line, I can't love you how you want me to, once again, but then you've got Phoebe that branches out on this side, saying the same thing, and her voice and her vocal is now so prominent, because when it's just harmonies, obviously they're all blended together, but she sings a solo line and you know it's Phoebe. And then Julian then sings the same line after that on this side, and it feels like, you know, Lucy is the tree and then the girls are branching out on each side. It really does feel like branches, which was so gorgeous. That's so cool. Oh my god, I love it. I love it. What a cool intro. It feels like an end song. And then you hit another crescendo. Dun, 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 dun. It feels like you're running, and you've just literally run off the edge of a cliff. And then, you know, the girls kind of catch you again by doing a I don't love you. All the girls sing together in their harmony, and it's beautiful, and it kind of cradles you a little bit again, but the words they're saying aren't so cradling. They're a little bit like, oh, hope this isn't aimed at me. But obviously, if you're a fan that is respectful, you know it's not about you. And then they stop, and then you think it's over, and then they sing that same bit again. You're like, oh, okay. And I also think this is important because it's an intro song, and they're singing all the lines together without any instruments. It's showcasing their vocals once again and showing what's in store for the rest of the album. Oh, come on, here it comes. Oh my gosh. Crescendoed into like the edge of a cliff. Oh, it's still going. So yeah, that is Bite the Hand. I absolutely loved it. I'll include little clips here and there. I don't know what I can include. There won't be any music attached. I guess you'll see it with your own eyes. So the next song, Me and My Dog. Here, Phoebe is referring to her dog who sadly passed away, but at the age of 16, so a ripe old age, but still absolutely sad nonetheless. The song isn't necessarily all about the dog, but she does mention her dog in the song, which is lovely. But anyway, the intro of the song starts with guitar in a forward motion once again. However, the motion does feel a little bit more blurred. It feels a little more relaxed, I guess a little bit more slower, less intense, a bit more of like a walking pace rather than this kind of, you know, this journey with a lot of like intention of where to go. You know, it just feels a bit more of like a flowing chain of thought, a walk, a stroll, you know. Guitar crescendos and then Phoebe's vocals come in and they are doubled, but I'm not sure if she's singing the line twice or if she's got a plug-in, like a doubler, giving the vocal a lot more width, a lot more texture, and also doing that with vocals that are quite thin makes the vocal sound a lot fuller because she has got quite a soft voice. Me and my daughter were actually saying about how her voice feels like it's like got rounded edges, like she's got a very round voice and there's no sharp edges to it. It's so soft, but it's like round on the edges. It really is. And this is actually what I found on Genius about the lyrics in the first verse. It says, though Phoebe starts the song by saying that the day she and her partner spent together was great, she proceeds to describe things that might spoil a day, being hungry, unrested, and having an upsetting dream. Despite all these negative things, just spending time with her lover made her day great. The last line drives this home. The kissing that kept her awake was good enough to redeem the fatigue. So yeah, she doesn't care about being tired. She doesn't care about being hungry. She's just... all that is out the window because of how in love she is with this person. Okay, so in verse 2, the instrumental stays the same until she says, "Until I met you." And then the deeper bass comes in, and then and it's not overpowering though. It's kind of a gentle bass that just gives it more depth. And then also a vocal, ooh, vocal comes in on top. So you've got the low and you've got the high, just giving the whole thing a lot more, giving it a more filled out feeling. Also felt really like wholesome the way it came in. It felt really cute. I don't know why, just like sweet. And I think it's because when she's saying "until I met you," it's like this very, everything was like this, everything was like that. And then I met you and everything just fell into place. It filled up. Everything felt, whole in a way. And then we hear a plucking of a banjo, and the plucking banjo, it's like, it does like a repeating sound. It's almost like it's like revving up to then throw you into the chorus. And you also hear a slight distorted guitar moment, but like that is teasing what is in store in the chorus, which we then get hit with. And it's a, distorted guitars. You've got a little bit of a banjo plucking. It's very cool. And it's filled out and it's like got a movement to it. It feels like a release for sure, but it's like a passionate release, a very like, yeah, it feels big. Yeah, because Phoebe's vocals are centre stage. And then I think we got Julian on the left with quite a powerful vocal. And then we've got Lucy on the right with a more subtle, lower vocal. It's really cool how they showcase their vocals in that way. It made so much sense to me. But also it reminded me of when, I've already mentioned my sister, but it reminded me of us doing music together, because she's got a very soft voice, but I can definitely pack a punch. Our voices are quite different, but they do really blend together well. And it's like that here. And I don't know, it just made me think of my sister and I when we sing. It was just a nice feeling. That's so cute. Oh, it's like building. What is that, like a banjo? In this verse, Phoebe says, it's not the chorus, again, it's not really a chorus, it's called a verse once again. But yeah, anyway, in that verse where she says the "until I met you," she also says, "I had a fever until I met you, now you make me cool." And what I got from the line, well, there was lots of double meanings in the line. I felt like she was saying fever could mean passion, a desire. I had a fever, I had to get out. I had to I had a journey, I had ambition. I had this, a real fever, a desire to do something. But also, on the other hand, fever could be like, I felt overheated. I felt overwhelmed. I felt ill. I didn't feel great. I felt maybe even angry. Like when you think of a fever and hotness, like a kind of anger. So it could have two meanings. And then she says when she met this person, they made her cool. And I was thinking, cool has so many meanings too, because you could say cool, calm, collected. So made me calm, made this fever go down, made me feel calm and okay. I felt like myself. Also, it could mean like made me feel cool, as in like I was a cool kid. Like I was like I was in with the kids. You know what I mean? Just made her feel like she meant something and that she was all right, But then it could also mean it made me cold, as in like when I met you, it made that ambition in me die out. It froze all the ambition I had, all the passion I had. So that's a negative, but I doubt it means that. Especially because she then goes on to say, but sometimes I still do something embarrassing. So it's like, it definitely feels like she was saying it in a positive way and then saying, but then I go and do something embarrassing, like you made me cool, but I'm still me. I still am like, have my insecurities and I still act a fool. I could be awkward sometimes. So I'm not super cool. I could feel it for a minute until I do something awkward. Yeah, when the line, "I don't want to be this guy," comes in, so do the drums. The drums come in then. The drum. And so far the song has proven to be a forward motion type song again, maybe more than the first one, however, with less intensity. It doesn't feel as, determined. It feels a little bit more gentle, like a thought process, rather than like an actual physical journey. In the chorus, she says a lot of things, but what it comes down to is she is seeing her ex-partner perform, and instead of being there with him, connected to him, maybe backstage or whatever, she is watching from the crowd with his fans. And then she kind of goes on to describe having like a panic attack sort of situation. And I felt like maybe she went to go see one of his shows, but didn't realise how much she was still not over him in whatever way that means. She then had a panic attack, feeling like, oh my God, I can't handle this. You know, maybe that was just like embarrassing, but she's okay. It was hard to go through. But one of my favourite lines, and like, take what you want from what I'm saying, but I felt like it's like this. She said she wants to be with her dog up in space, looking at an impossible view. An impossible view. That's so cool. And number one, when you think of space, it is an impossible view. It's an endless view. It's endless, literally endless. It's so impossible. And being up in space, she wants to be far, far, far away from this person who she has loved before. But also, impossible view kind of implies that when she's looking at this guy, it's not an impossible view. It's a possible view. And she's looking at this man, thinking of all the possibilities that could happen, like whether they get back together, maybe in the future they will rekindle, or, you know, whatever. She's still seeing possibilities when she looks at this guy, and she wants to be somewhere where she can't hope, she can't think of that ever again. She wants it to be impossible because she needs it to end. She wants the heartache to end. You know what I mean? It's just, it's kind of sad. And then when I clicked on that lyric, actually, it says here, the lyric is similar in concept to Radiohead's Subterranean Homesick Alien, which in and of itself was inspired by the larger concept of Martian poetry. Given the group's roots in folk music, the line could also reference Johnny Cash's verse from Highwayman, I fly a starship across the universe divide. But yeah, anyway, the Radiohead bit I wanted to mention because I mentioned it in my reaction that on one of the songs, I can't even remember it was this one. I don't even think it was this one. It might have been, but I don't remember. But I mentioned on a completely different bit, I was like, oh, that reminds me of Radiohead. Because, oh yeah, it's the one with Julian Baker where she's saying like slow down. It reminded me of Radiohead so much when she said slow down, and I mentioned that, and then Radiohead is mentioned here, so I guess Radiohead was a big inspiration for them in some way or another. To prove more so that she is in hope to have a connection with this man in the future or whatever, she says something like, I want to be emaciated or something. I had to look up the word because I was like, what does that even mean? And it means skinny. And then I thought of the first verse where it said, they didn't eat, they didn't do this. So I was thinking like she was saying that in a way where she's like, I want to be so in love again where I don't eat. And of course, if you don't eat, you get skinny, which is not a good way to get skinny, but it just naturally happens. So I was wondering if she said it because of that, because I don't know why. Like, I don't really understand why she would say it else, but I guess it means that. Also, I'm not saying that she definitely wants to be with this person, but at the time of writing this song, maybe she had still a bit of like, still some love for this person, whether they were good or not. I don't know who it was. I read on Genius Summer someone saying it was Ryan Adams, who wasn't a great person, but I can't remember. But you know, it still hurts. It doesn't matter if they're a good person or bad person. Like, it hurts, and you do spend a lot of time longing for the person after you've broken up with them. So yeah. In the outro, she says, "Dream about it and wake up falling." Oh my god, the outro. Wow, that vocal. Yeah. Of course, falling dreams are super common. They happen when you're stressed out. And of course, not being with this person could be stressful and sad. Heartbreak is stressful and sad. But also, what I found interesting about it is that she said, dream about it and wake up falling. She says, I wake up falling, not I woke up. Because normally the falling dreams, you fall and then you wake up. You don't wake up in the middle of falling. You normally well, I guess you do wake up in the middle of the fall. You don't always hit the ground, but either way, I thought like if I was to go maybe reach a little bit, I felt like she was saying, I wake up from this dream. She doesn't say nightmare, so it's like she's probably woken up from this dream and she finds herself falling in love with her ex-partner again, because maybe the dream was about their relationship in a loving way. Or if it's anything to do with the dog, she might wake up and realise that her dog isn't there with her anymore, and she's like, she could feel herself falling into like this like painful, feeling or whatever. But I don't know, it's got many little things to it if you try and reach, I guess. But yeah, also, yeah, I'm glad I've written this down, because I love at the end where you hear a really strong vocal, like above, being like, oh, like a really long, solid vocal with a bit of reverb, and like it made me feel like it matched with the lines falling, because it felt like someone screaming as they fall, but tastefully, very tastefully, because it sounded really beautiful. And then the whole song just comes to a close, and is like, as the tempo slows down, so that forward motion doesn't come to like a stop like that, like the first song did, but it kind of slows down. The thought process is over, the story is over, moving on. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just thought that was such a good song now, and I loved it so much. Okay, so it's a new day, and we are now on the song Souvenir. So the song starts with a beautiful acoustic guitar that is quickly accompanied by a thick, warm bass. Then Julian's vocals come in, and this is when I hear Julian's vocals for the first time in a more focused manner, you know what I mean? And I literally fall in love with them. I think they might be my favourite out of the three girls. Obviously, they all sing beautifully and very differently. There's just something about Julian's vocal that maybe I relate to it more, because she's got a kind of nasally twang in there. Not like saying country or anything like that, but it's got a little bit of a nasally side to it, and I don't know, it's just the shape of it just sounds so good. I can really feel it on an emotional level, and it's not just an emotional level, it's like, when you hear a voice, they just do lots of little things within the voice, like it's little moments, it's like it's filled with detail, even just singing one line. Something about her voice, so I just absolutely adore.
Wow, she's got a gorgeous voice. I love her voice.
Yeah, she sings Dreamcatcher in the rearview mirror, hasn't caught anything yet. I love these lines so much. They're simple, but so visceral. You can really what I imagined was like seeing her driving a car, looking in her mirror, seeing the Dreamcatcher, being like, like scoffing at it, kind of being like, got this dream catcher, but hasn't helped me out, has it? Because I've just been having all these bad dreams still. And also it's interesting because it felt like she'd been sleeping out of her car. I don't know if she had, but like maybe it's like in a rear view mirror and it's on the seat, so it's like she's taking it home with her, or I imagine it dangling. And because like all the songs so far I've had that travelling feeling, I just kind of imagined her like sleeping out of her car for some reason. It's really weird. But yeah, that was just in my mind. $20 in souvenirs, anything is worth a try to stay out of your nightmares. Here, I start wondering, is she talking about her own nightmares then, or someone else's? Because she's saying your nightmares. So that, I got a little bit confused. But no, it felt like she was saying it to an ex-partner or something, Like I actually wrote here I'm wondering if she's talking about someone else. Maybe her ex-partner bought lots of dream catchers to get Julian out of their dreams. Anything is worth trying. They really want to do anything they can to stop dreaming about her. So maybe she is literally saying it about someone else that she may have felt like she hurt in the past, or like she was in love with and they miss her, you know what I mean? Then she says, I always end up dying. You said, because of course I did. And if you have ever gone through a heartbreak, then you know that it can feel like grieving, you know what I mean? So maybe it is her ex-partner or something saying about their dreams and about her dying, because yeah, it's the death of the relationship. I also love that on the last line, the music kind of empties out a little bit and it really puts emphasis on that line. Yeah, and then there's like this instrument that comes in, and it's kind of high in the mix, but I don't know whether it's like a guitar, like a kind of like a really reverbed guitar, or a synth. But she's like on the bit where she's like, oh. Whew. It just feels super dreamy, and of course she's talked about nightmares and dreams, so it makes sense that it sounds dreamy. It's not the only time on this record that like there's been some dreamy instrumental parts, but I think it really suited the dream catcher sort of thought and everything like that. Then in the verse where Lucy sings, there's harmonies from Phoebe, which I just think sounds so beautiful, and like the song feels like it's evolved a lot more at this point as well, and it feels like, you know, you're coming towards the end of the song, which we are.
Those strings, those delicate little thin strings. I did the same harmony as her, Nelly. Oh, it's like a choir.
But Lucy says, pulling thorns out my palm, working midnight surgery. When I cut a hole into my skull, do you hate what you see like I do? Oh my God, like those lyrics are just so emotional and just sad. Like, you don't want anyone to not like themselves and so on, but it's a very real thing that we deal with. On Genius, I clicked the line pulling thorns out my palm, and this is what it said. A thorn in the side means something that consistently causes problems for a person. When a thorn is pulled out, it can cause more pain, but briefly. This line may be speaking about a difficult process of resolving one's own internal issues. And I thought that was just put perfectly. So yeah, there's a lot of bits from Genius included on here because it helps me out so much. Just as like maybe sometimes these videos open your mind to something, me reading something on Genius opens my mind to something and it keeps it flowing, you know? But the last lines are what really get me. She asks if the person she's speaking about hates what she sees, hates what they see when they look inside her mind. And I kind of felt like, would she even be offended if they didn't like it? Because when you have so much like self-hate or like self-negative talk, you know, if someone says to you, I don't like you, you kind of go, well, I don't like me either, so join the club. You kind of don't care as much, which is sad because we should be caring about that sort of thing. But yeah, the music once again breaks away on the last line, emphasizing the lyric before swooping in with the like I do moment where you hear haunting, melancholy backing vocals singing ooh in unison. And it is kind of haunting. It started off with like this dreamier sound and then it slowly turned haunting, if you know what I mean. So yeah, you could kind of picture it as like a weird, like desolate nightmare that you're having as well. But they're not really just nightmares, they're just thoughts and internal feelings of guilt and regret and pain and self like doubt, self like hatred. So, you know, it's a lot of mental health stuff going on here. Oh yeah, added to those oohs are some wailing sounds that come in. I think they were made by a synth, but I'm not sure. You know when you get like a big like woo, you could never really be sure because it's like that could just be a string being plucked and bent, you know, pitch bent and like with little attack on it. And with little attack, you don't hear the pluck, you just hear it goes in slow like because when you've got like a heart attack, it'd be like, bow, bow, you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I think it might be a synth though, but it really does fit that haunting, melancholy vibe. It seems like the singers are haunted by their thoughts, for sure. And I'll throw in what I said about Phoebe's verse right here.
What does it tell me about you? I don't think I even like followed the lyrics that much, but I loved it when Phoebe was like, always managed to move in right next to cemeteries and never far from a hospital. I don't know what that tells you about me. Like, it's just interesting. Like, she feels like she's born to die almost. Like she's always living on the edge as if death is just around the corner. Maybe there's something a bit morbid about her a little bit, you know?
So the synopsis of the song, basically it feels like Julian feels regret or guilt for breaking someone's heart or possibly hurting someone. Phoebe notices how she could be quite morbid and anxious about death, and Lucy is struggling with her inner battles of negative self-talk. It just feels like each verse they were speaking about inner vulnerable feelings that they have about themselves and their lives. And that's just so cool. Total sad girl song. Total sad girl record, to be honest. But like, I love that. I'm a sad girl myself, to be honest. Don't even mean to be. I don't like be sad all the time, but obviously I relate to sad things. But yeah, now we have the song Stay Down. And Stay Down might actually be one of my favourites at the moment. I don't know. I love so many of them, but Stay Down, oh. Yeah, well, let me get into it and then you'll see why. The song started with arpeggiated guitars panned perfectly, lower notes leaning more on the right as the high notes lean more to the left. I think there is two guitars parts being played because in comes that travelling sound again. Dun, 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 dun. You know, it's sweet and pretty, but there's still a forward motion until it hits the first line where Julian starts singing. On the left, there is still that arpeggiated guitar plucking, but it's a lot more subtle, definitely a lot more subtle. And on the right, there's still that forward motion guitar, just basically on the downstroke 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, you know, it just gives it that real perpetual we're going, which I've mentioned so many freaking times. But yeah, of course, like the dun 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 dun, it's on this side, and then a little arpeggiated plucking is on this side, and it's more chill because the vocals come in. They are the main focus. I find that displaying parts of instrumental music, so like the music, if you display the music first and you come in one by one, so say if you have a drum, dun, dun, cha, dun, 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 cha, and then you get like a blow, blow, ba-bow, bow, blow, blow, ba-bow, bow, blow, blow. Yeah, and you hear that, and then you get a do 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 do. Right, yeah. Just put them together, but when you get them individually, yeah, you get a chance to acquaint yourself with it. So you can acquaint yourself with the drums and then like the main guitar riff and then maybe the little lead guitar moment. And when you get to hear it in layers, they all become very prominent when you're listening. If you introduce them all at the same time, you can't really pick and choose what you're hearing. You hear what stands out to you, and some of the other stuff go by the wayside. So what I liked about the song is that it started with this arpeggiated guitar and like the traveling guitar, and then as the vocals come in, they are still happening, but on the sides, but they're still prominent because you've already been acquainted with them. I hope that makes sense, but I always feel like that with songs that build. And I think that's the point, of course, you know, that's why songs build, because you notice things being added, you notice that things are getting fuller and you notice things are getting bigger or grander. And then you notice when things are taken out, there is a purpose to that. But I think it's smart. And if you want to do songwriting like that, yeah, start minimal and make your way up. Don't just try and do too much at once and then take it away. I mean, sometimes you could do that. Sometimes that's cool when you take it away and you go, oh, I never even noticed that synth was there. Was that synth playing the whole time? Was that synth always in the mix? You know, sometimes that's fun as well. But yeah, if you want one that progresses, of course, progressively put in instruments, obviously. Yeah, in the verse, it seems that Julian is describing bracing herself for a fight/argument. She better lean into it or else it will hurt more, basically, which is just incredibly sad. And, you know, she was told that she was advised to do that. And she learnt quickly that is the best thing to do in that scenario. Of course, the best thing would to never have to be in that scenario, but it's not like something you can pick and choose a lot of the time. Because, yeah, you don't know when you're going to get hit with, like, someone treating you badly. Like, you don't go into things knowing that this person's bad news. No, you go in feeling like they love you or they really like you or whatever. So yeah, like it just happens. And I feel like that first line, I've never been a fighter, kind of makes sense for the rest of the song, like when we get into it. But anyway, what this song is so powerful to me, not only was it sonically powerful to me, but the lyrics are very, very, very relatable.
Ah. Wow.
She then begins to push her voice a little bit more. Julian has a voice that can be pretty nasally, like I said, in the best way. I relate to it very much. But this allows her to have quite a lot of power in her vocal too, as well as deep emotion. So when you've got a voice that can be like, ah, you can sing higher usually. Ah! And you can probably belt as well. You're really pushing it into that passage, the ah, rather than a ah, ah. Like even when I go ah with an open vocal, you can still hear the nasally part of my voice that is naturally there. But for those who don't have a natural nasal ability, a lot of them will learn it so that they can belt if they want to belt, because it's all about getting up here and not doing it from the throat, of course. And always using a diaphragm too. It's not like suddenly your air's coming up, well, whatever, you know what I mean. I'm not going to go into the logistics of it all. She naturally has that, so she has the ability to push her voice, which is so cool. And it does feel really emotional for sure, because when you think of a cry tone, it's very like, yeah, yeah. You know, it's got that, it's like a whininess to it. It adds the emotion. It adds the emotion. And I feel like when you've are able to access that whinier sound, you can really, do a lot of it. You can make emotions happen. But what I will argue is some of a more open voice like Lucy Dacus, I'd say that open voices naturally sound emotional because they're a lot more like, there's a wisdom to an open voice, I find. A very like, it's sorrowful. And of course, I'll always have my natural nasalness in there. So if you hear the nasal parts, it's just because that's what I am like. But it will always have that like, it's like an Eeyore sort of thing. Like when you do like vocal warm-ups, I used to call it the Eeyore, where you go, or Winnie the Pooh, bother. Because you're opening your throat. It's very like open. It sounds so silly, but obviously it sounds beautiful when you actually start using the open tone in songs. Anyway, I could go on forever about singing. I'll try and stop now. I hope some of that made sense. I've probably got way more I want to say to make it sound a lot cleaner, but whatever. Whatever. She sounds great at the end of the day. I find her voice to be very emotional because she's got that nasalier sound, and that's it really. In that bit where she's pushing a bit more, she says, I look at you and you look at a screen. I'm in the backseat of my body. And oh my Lord, when I read that and how I related, I was like, damn. And I know that Graceland 2 is about Julian Baker, so I know she struggles with mental health stuff. And I know there's some other songs that my sister told me about, but I've not listened to, that are about her, or they have songs about all about each other, which is just the cutest thing ever. And when I say my sister's truly obsessed with Boy Genius, I really, and them individually, I really mean it. She came over the other day. I told her I was reviewing it, and that started her off, and away she went. But I was happy to hear it because obviously I was acquainted with the album, and I loved it myself. So I was like, I don't mind this so much, and it saves our dad from hearing it over and over again. He's actually put her on a ban of talking about them because she will talk about them like it's like she's on a timer, and she'll be like, oh yes, this about them. So yeah, he's like been like, you're on a Boy Genius ban. Just so funny. But yeah, back to those lines. I look at you and you look at the screen. I'm in the backseat of my body. I want to read this bit because I want to get it right. So this implies the person she is arguing with is looking at her, but she feels like she is just a screen. Her outsides don't match the way she feels inside. She is detached from herself in this moment. This is something commonly called depersonalisation. And if you have been following me for a while, and if you've been on my Instagram or whatever, you'll see that I've talked about depersonalisation because I'd had a trigger not long before it. That's why I spoke about it, because I thought it was important. Every time I do go through something, I try and share a little bit about it just so people know they're not alone. And yeah, whatever, and just give people advice and like let people know that they're not crazy sort of thing, because it can feel like that. But anyway, commonly called depersonalisation, is a mental disorder which is also often a symptom of other mental disorders. So yeah, like for me it's a symptom of CPTSD and BPD, so it is very trigger based. Sometimes though people will have it chronic where they feel it all day, every day for a long time, but it would still be something from trauma for sure. Yeah, it's a symptom of a mental disorder where you feel far away from yourself and like you're watching yourself rather than taking part in what you say or do. So when you get in that trigger and you feel like that, you start looking at your arms, listening to your voice, and you're watching it as if it's not you. It's very, very, scary. And everything feels very odd and different, and there's derealization as well, which makes the world around you seem foggy and far away, and things look smaller or they look bigger, which is also very much tied in with depersonalization. But yeah, when she said she's in the backseat of her body, I've always described it as the passenger seat of my body, and I wrote a whole poem about it, which I won't read to you, but it is on my Instagram. Maybe I'll just post it here or in the description. I'll post it in the description. You can read it if you want to. I think you might really get a good understanding of what it feels like if you read it. I feel like I'm really proud of that poem. And actually, funnily enough, I read it to a therapist that I had a couple years back, and she wanted it for their page, like their organization page. So, you know, I was really proud of it. I really love that poem because it really did convey everything I felt. And even if I'm not a poetic genius, I got everything out that I needed to get out in the way I intended it to. So yeah, please do read that if you haven't. Also, I did take it in another way when I read through the rest of the verse. You know, I believe depersonalization was hugely part of it, but I do like to add like a separate view as well. I don't like to hone in and think it's exactly this when it could be so many things. That's what art's all about. When she says, I'm just steering my life in a video game, similar accent, different name, I imagine the person she was arguing with demonizing her and making her out to be a villain. So she feels like this person can't see her whatsoever, so doesn't feel real because her true intentions can't be seen. Instead, they're being painted in a very dark way. She literally says in the next lines, so would you teach me I'm the villain? Yeah, so it kind of feels like she sat there watching this whole thing play out, like this person saying you are this, you are that, blaming, calling her names or whatever, and her looking at herself going, I don't feel like I'm that person, but you're telling me I am, and I feel like I should believe you because I love you, and why would you say this if you didn't mean it? And yeah, okay, fine. I feel completely gaslit now, so I can't really think for myself. You just tell me what I am and I'll go with it. So there is a huge part of that as well with the depersonalization. But yeah, also I read about what she said about the song in my reaction, so I'll put that in now.
Julian Baker shared the full story behind the song for 100 Greatest Songs of 2018 year-end list of songs for whoever. Stay Down is a song about responding to confrontation, sort of an analysis of the feelings that rise when a person is trying to deal with a conflict and sifting through healthy and unhealthy ways to respond. I'm too hot to wear my glasses. And they ruin my makeup, but I do need them. See that? All I have to do is like this, nothing, and they cloud up. They're literally steaming up. I haven't done anything. I've just got obviously sweat, like a mist of sweat just like coming out of my face. So I am hot. I am hot. But yeah, just do your job. What's the use in glasses if you can't see through them? Why does it keep happening? Why? So weird. Am I not wearing them high enough? But then they're like, no, that feels gross when they're touching your face. I don't want that. Okay, anyway. Stay Down is a song about responding to confrontation, sort of an analysis of the feelings that arise when a person is trying to deal with a conflict and sitting through healthy and unhealthy ways to respond. The first verse uses the principle of physical combat in which leaning into a blow lessens its impact as a way to illustrate how a person anticipating conflict or argument could start to anticipate negativity in a way that enables conflict instead of diffusing it, and how surprised that person would be if the other party turned their cheek. That is, if they were merciful or patient instead of antagonistic. Okay, that was really hard to read out loud. I'm going to read it in my head because I can understand things better when I read it in my head. Yeah. I fully understand it now. So she's saying like how in arguments, sometimes it's someone's reaction that can make the argument get worse. Like someone could do something like, oh, why are you doing this today? And if that person reacts like, no, I'm not, you're doing this actually, you know, that's escalating it and antagonizing it. And if you say, well, I feel actually that you're being like this and it's hurting my feelings, and they go, I'm not hurting your feelings. Well, I'm not. And you're like, okay, so I'm crazy then. You know, it goes on to like a whole like thing when you keep antagonizing it instead of going, okay, I'm really sorry you feel that way. I truly was not meaning to hurt your feelings, but I can understand how that came across. Like that's a really healthy way to do it, but it's something that most of us seldom know how to do in a heated situation. But no, it's so funny actually. It's so real. This is very relatable for everyone, really. And yeah, it's about turning the other cheek and merciful instead of being antagonistic. What would it be like? Slow down and whatever. But yeah. But then she says the chorus is a narration of those presupposed self-deprecating thoughts, essentially mocking the recipient of the song to show me how I am always wrong, or always a villain of a situation. It's meant to be sarcastic, showing how unuseful that kind of bitter and sullen perspective is. The very last part describes the aftermath of a vitriolic argument using imagery of a nuclear explosion, because after the spectacle of explosion like that is over and the initial damage is done, there are harmful repercussions that last decades, even centuries, that make the site of damage uninhabitable. So essentially, it is a forewarning or a forecast of what ends up happening after a violent emotional reaction. It ends up taking a toll on people closest to you, and if it isn't ever neutralized, will cause people to flee that environment out of necessity to preserve their own health. Oh, absolutely. So it's not, when even talk about it in this way, it's not just about a one-on-one argument. It's about war and war of the worlds. You know what I mean? Just the way we interact in general and how that can sometimes turn out to be war, like literal war. And like how I was talking about this the other day to my partner, like it's crazy that we can't just, grown adults can't just talk about things and sort things out. Why do you have to go kill people, literally kill people? And like, do war? It's just, it feels so asinine and completely childish. But that's our country, that's our world, that's what it is. Horrible. It shouldn't be that way, but it is. Has been since the dawn of time, basically. Yeah, but when you're thinking of interpersonal relationships, just more personal relationships, then yeah, it can feel like that too. It's the same thing, just one person against the other isn't going to work. You have to slow down and really, I think the best thing is to try and always put yourself in the other person's shoes and try and understand why they might be acting a certain way, why they might be saying a certain thing, and then getting to the root of that and trying to sort that out. Not everyone wants to do that though. Some people are stubborn, they are prideful, they are too defensive, and it is really fucking difficult when you've got someone like that and you just want to sort something out. But then you can also be that person sometimes. Do you know what I mean? You can also be that person that's defensive. You can't sort anything out until you've taken a moment to bring back some rationality into your mind. Because if you're all acting off emotion, your brain can go into like a very odd place where you will be triggered. So if you're triggered, then you want to do certain things out of survival rather than out of rationality, trying to problem solving and logistics and so on. Anyway.
Okay, so I also should mention that when Julian says slow down, she literally slows down. She literally goes slow down. She is possibly feeling very overwhelmed and confused, and of course needs to slow everything down just so she can collect herself, But it's kind of ironic because seeing as the next bit starts amping up, it's like she's tried to slow down and it was like this nice little beautiful bit, and then it starts to amp up again. Like she didn't get enough time to slow down. It's not always successful. The things you've learned in therapy, the tools you've learned, you're not always successful at using them. And that's just trial and error. That's practice. Everything you learn, you don't just learn right away. It's a practice, and it's a practice for life, forever. And you won't always succeed, even if you've succeeded 10 times. It's difficult. It really is. But yeah, in verse 3, the music begins. It's ascension with that downstroke strumming, dun 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 dun, and the kick drum pounding simultaneously. Oh, yeah, it's like dun 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 dun. I think it's like that. Yeah, a bit more like with the drum. I can't remember now, but yeah, the drum is quite big. So dun 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 dun. Yeah, no, it's like that. Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to remember it. Julian's vocals increasingly get more desperate and emotive as Dacus and Bridges sing subtle but powerful harmonies. The verse implies she is constantly being punished by the antagonist. She can't do anything right. She is being belittled and made to feel like a bad person. She in fact feels so overwhelmed by it that she wants to die, which of course is absolutely heartbreaking. Yeah, because of course she was saying about, so would you teach me I'm the villain? Aren't I? Aren't I? I love it when he says, aren't I?
Aren't I?
Aren't. It just sounds rhythmic. It's fun. Anyway, aren't I the one constantly repenting for a difficult mind? Push me down into the water like a sinner, hold me under, and I'll never come up again. I'll just stay down. And that's crazy because like we've literally just heard her say like slow down, and then she's like dun dun dun, and it's like, okay, well then tell me I'm the villain, tell me that I'm a sinner, you know, push my head down in the water like I'm a sinner, and you know what, I won't even come up, I'm just gonna die, I'm not doing this anymore, you know. She's really feeling the emotions even more so. Well, the depersonalisation seems to be gone, but like the pain is hitting her, sort of thing. Yeah, it's implied by the antagonist that she can't do anything right. She's being belittled, made into a bad person. She feels so overwhelmed and wants to die, which of course is fucking heartbreaking. And then when she hits the stay down moment, it kind of works like the slow down moment where it kind of chills out again. But there's something so theatrical about it, actually. Oh, yeah, it's theatrical because it really does feel like a play. It feels like an emotive play being played out in front of your eyes. Because before she said slow down as if to calm her thoughts, but she didn't ultimately slow down, she amped up to the point of not wanting to be alive anymore. When she hits the stay down, it's almost as if she has realised she never really slowed down. Does that make sense? She's like, stay down. And then she's like, she says stay down, but it like drops off a little, like down, like it does like a little drop off, and then like some music plays, and it almost feels like she's thinking about it all, like, wait, I said slow down before, and now I'm saying I'm just going to stay down and not even live, you know. And like she's like, oh, she's kind of reflecting on what was all that has happened.
I love her voice so much. Oh.
Yeah, and then a whining string synth sound appears with a rat-a-tat-tat of the drums. Yeah, it's like dun, 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 like a marching drum sort of thing. They really let you sit in the emotion of all the lyrics we just heard. Yeah, so we are reflecting too, if you know what I mean. It's showing her reflecting, and by her reflecting, we are reflecting. It's giving chance to just go, oh my God, that was really emotional, right? But then in this bit, you hear the synth sounds, and there's little reverse bits. So it's like, which I actually noticed in my reaction as well.
Wow, I love this. All those soaring sounds, like whining. Ooh, and a reverse sounds. What?
Yeah, to me, that feels like she's going back over everything that's happened, like she's reversing through time, looking at it all as she reflects. Those little reverse sounds resemble that to me. Yeah, and then she goes into, it's a half-life, it's a fallout, it takes so long for me to settle down, which kind of makes sense. Like, she's done the reflecting, and she's like, oh, okay, it takes so long for me to settle down. You know, she's realising it as she's getting there. Basically implying she had to take a moment to come out of the triggered response she had, but when she is out of it, there's no one around. And maybe it's because she feels safer on her own. Maybe it's best that there's no one around, because actually no one around, there's no one to trigger her. However, it can also feel very sad and lonely, and she might feel very abandoned in being alone in that. So it's difficult as well. Yeah, the music in this part is amping up once again, but this time it climbs into a great release where she belts it out, I stay down. It is so emotional when she's like, I stay down, I just stay down. And it's just so like, you know, oh, I just want to scream it out. And it's just so, it's so emotional. And when I was writing the script, I was getting very emotional. I was like, I literally wrote, it's so emotional. Because it just is.
Oh, the way it just falls into place. The release.
But this time it feels like she's saying, instead of stay down as in I stay down and die, it's like she's saying I'm stay down and I abide. You know, I comply, I abide, I just let people talk down to me. I let people say I'm this bad thing and whatever, because it's easier for me, because I want to try and avoid triggers. If I start trying to fight for myself, it can be quite triggering. And we go back to the start. I've never been a fighter. She literally says that, and she's saying it even further now by saying, I stay down. I just stay down, because it's just so freaking hard for her. And totally understandable, but so sad, because you want her to have that assertiveness, that confidence, the tools, you know. But sometimes people can bring out those triggers like nothing else, and you're kind of stuck, especially when it's not a very nice person doing it to you. But yeah, while she repeats these lines, the music develops into a bigger release when the cymbals start crashing, and it is ultimately just the most emotional moment on the whole record, I find, because those like crashing, you know, the cymbal just making it feel bigger. Once again, the evolvement of the music and this record is just so good. But amps up so much, it does feel like her head is just under that water, you know, she's being held under that water, and she is just saying, I stay down, and barely reaching over the top of it with those vocals. But then comes up kind of calm, minimal outro, like the very tail end of the song. And it just feels like her complying. That is her compliance. She is just, okay, I'm done.
Oh my god! Ooh, what a powerful one. Oh, it's so powerful.
It's just so heartbreaking. It's a very heartbreaking song, but such a special, powerful song, and one that makes so much sense. And of course, I read the part that I said in my reaction of what she said, and absolutely, just totally feel it. Totally feel it. It's difficult out here when you've got all these mental health issues, trying to navigate relationships and so on. It's hard for anyone anyway, because you're two individual people with different upbringings, different families, different everything, different tastes in things. You know, you might have things in common, but like ultimately you cannot be the exact same. So it's always going to be a difficulty. But yes, anyway, moving on, we now have Salt in the Wound. The song begins with a real distorted guitar sound. And when I say distorted, it's like fully distorted, not like Bit Crush where it sounds thin and like it's got more of like a roaring sound. You know what I mean? Like it roars rather than like growls. Or rather than snarls, yeah, it roars, and I love that, because it feels like you know, the way I see it is the distortion is spread. So with distortion in my views, so with distortion and my synesthesia, okay, I'll very, 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 very briefly try and describe it. But brown background, you got like a digital white like spark here, then you might have a thin little line like spark here, then you'll get like specks, and then maybe some more like digital kind of spark, and then like thin bits. It's like they're like sporadic in this one in particular. You know what I mean? It's not like all crunched together like full on static that you get on a TV, which bit crushers can sometimes look like. It's like that bit of a brown like brown background with like parts of it coming through. So already so much better than like when you hear full on bit crush sounds, which I don't necessarily like just because it's a little bit too much sometimes. But no, this is perfect. But funnily enough, it's accompanied with like a really gentle guitar, like really soft guitar moment. And like even when I was reacting, I'll show you, I was saying like, oh, that's interesting and contrasting sounds. Like, I wonder if that's anything to do with the lyrics, because obviously when I'm doing first reaction and I'm just listening to the song, I don't catch the lyrics like you do when you fully sit down and read them, especially on first listen. I mean, come on.
That is some distortion. Yeah. Wow. I felt like the music definitely had some significance to the lyrics or what the song was about, because it started off with like distortion right away, but also had a gentle guitar sound as well. It feels like a weird contrasting thing, and then as it got bigger and bigger and bigger, the distortion became heavier, and the softer sounds were getting almost drowned out. I wonder if that's like metaphoric in some way, you know?
It does make sense, the sound, because then the first line is from Lucy Dacus, "You put salt in the wound and a kiss on my cheek." So, like, number one, those are just contrasting things at face value. Putting salt on a wound is horrible, but a kiss on the cheek is very nice, you know? It usually is nice. Looking further into it, it could also, the kiss could be like a betrayal, like Judas when he kissed Jesus Christ. So it could mean betrayal too. I adore the pitch bending chords though. So like when you got the with the guitar, it doesn't stay. It's like a So yeah, what I love about it is like it pitch bends at the tail end, and I feel like that's interesting because like the aggression of the distortion feels very like confident, and then it kind of tails off as if it's not confident. Like there is like it's a rocky foundation basically. But it sounds so good. I love it. Obviously, I want to mention, like, I don't think every time they play an instrument it has an intention. I do realize that sometimes it's just like the sound of things. It just sounds good. But it's fun to make intention out of it. It's just fun to do it. There is also a steady high plucked string on a guitar that adds dimension. Those strings carry on plucking alongside a piano. When Lucy says, "But you take and you take," then they all sing together like "Silks Up My Sleeve." Oh my god, that bit is so beautiful. And I love the part when it goes, "And you unrelentingly ask for the secret," because it reminds me of a barbershop quartet. You know, like the way they sing it is kind of like barbershop-y for sure. With the smoothness and the harmony and the character of it. But that feeling soon goes away when you get slammed with a distorted guitar once again, this time with a drum alongside it. So you're like, oh, okay, I'm being taken out of that beautiful moment. Again, using that contrast of like the soft and not so soft, soft and hard sort of sounds. Before going any further, I did want to mention how the first verse feels like Lucy is using a covert metaphor. And when I say covert, like just let me say it. I don't know how to describe it any better. But it feels like she's describing herself as a meal on her lover's plate. She talks about salt. She says about being buttered up. She even refers to her partner eating. And like, I think it's about eating her up. She feels like a food upon a plate to this person. She feels as if she could be consumed or discarded, especially when she says, "I don't know whether you're taking or leaving me." You know, are you going to eat me up? Are you going to consume me? Are you going to throw me away? It felt like she is really like kind of like not obviously going into the food metaphor. And I say it was covert because I didn't get it right away. I didn't. I had to like really look over those lines a few times and then tie it in together. And I was like, salt, butter, eating, take or leave me. I had to really go there with it. And so that's what I got from that. And I thought, if it is that, that's really clever, and I love it because it wasn't obvious to me. And I don't know, it's fun when you get something and it was never obvious.
Oh, it's so weird with that distorted sound.
But yeah. So then in the chorus, she switches to metaphors and imagery around magicians instead, which was like, oh, okay, cool switch. I like it.
Oh, wow. Oh.
Just shows she's quite a metaphorical writer, I guess. But yeah, she goes, "But you take and you take like silks up my sleeve." Everyone knows that when you have tied up silks up a sleeve, they feel like they're never ending. The magician pulls them out and they make a laugh about it, like, why is there so many? So like, this person is constantly taking from her, like she is a bottomless pit, basically. Then she says, "Trick after trick, I make the magic and you relentingly ask for the secret." So what I write next is just like my thought process, and I think I read what someone wrote on Genius, which made way more sense to me. But I wanted to go with my thought process at the time because I was trying to work it out on my own, of course. But yeah, I said this. The only way I can describe this is a feeling of annoyance and frustration. If I imagine someone asking a magician how they did all their tricks every day, I can imagine a magician would get quite annoyed. You know what I mean? It would just be annoying. Like, can you stop asking me? But in this instance, I'm wondering how it ties into the relationship. Does it match with the taking silks up the sleeve line? Or, I was just a little bit confused. And then I thought maybe this lover of hers wants to know her deepest secrets. Maybe he wants to know her flaws and all like things that she's, you know what I mean, all her secrets and flaws and insecurities, so that he can take them and use them against her in the future. Maybe that's it, like unrelentingly looking for all the little things in her that she hates so that they can use them against her. Because she even says like trick after trick, like he's trying to trick her into telling her stuff, and like, I make the magic. Maybe the magic is the like insecurities coming out and so on, and then he's looking for why she acts a certain way, or what hurts her, why doesn't she like certain things, so that he can go and do those things to hurt her. I mean, that's kind of like looking into it, but you don't know, some of the people they've been talking about don't seem very nice. But yeah, I found this written on Genius. The central image of the song is that of the magician endlessly pulling handkerchiefs out of their hand. She is contrasted against the voracious spectator who mercilessly again and again works to investigate and demystify and thereby destroy the magic. Laura Mulvey, most well known for the concept of the male gaze, writes that masculine spectators rob female characters of the power they hold by just this kind of demystification and consumption. Going back to consumption again, like the eating, about her being a food. Hence, you take and you unrelentingly ask for a secret. Why does everything have to be revealed, unmasked? And why is it so difficult for some of us to let things stay strange and unexplained and alive? So Boy Genius are pointing out that some secrets ought to stay that way, secret. And then this whole bit got me thinking, is this another song about the fans? Again, is it? Maybe it's the fans wanting more and wanting to know deep meanings into all their personal lives, and they don't want to give that away. And rightly so. Gosh. Do you know what I mean? So maybe it's the fan. Talk about the fans again, but I don't know. The second verse is Julian's verse. Hearing her voice after hearing Lucy's is so cool because they really have such different tones, which I've said a million times, but they're both so gorgeous. But I just love hearing them, tone by tone by tone. It's lovely. The drum beats through the slow tempo with a tambourine jingle every time the snare hits. Gives it such a folky indie feeling. Kind of reminds me of like the cobbled streets of London under like candlelight. You know what I mean? That real like folky indie. There's another word like bardy maybe, but it's not. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It just has something. I can't think of what it's called. What that type of sound is called. Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. It just has that feeling where it feels warm, but also like cold at the same time. Do you know what I mean? Where it feels like a wet cobbled street of London, but with candlelight, so it's cozy. So I don't know. Whatever. I love that though. And then when I first read the line that Julian sings, a neck full of mockingbirds, I felt like it meant this person had a mocking tone in their voice, like they would belittle her or condescend her with a mocking tone. And then whenever Julian would try and use the same tone back, like she mentions in the lyric, she says something about that, doesn't she? She says, neck full of mockingbirds, all calling your name. I tried to sing it all back like I heard it. It don't sound the same. So it felt like, at first I thought of this person mocking her, and then she tried to do it back, try and assert herself maybe. But it didn't sound right coming from her. She feels like this person's overpowering with how cruel they can be, and she could never be so cruel, even if she tried to, just to get some payback. But I was like, nah, I don't really know if that fits. It was like my first thought, but it wasn't really great. So yes, of course I went to Genius and I found this. The image of mockingbirds calling one's name feels very reminiscent of fans screaming out artist names or singing songs back at them. The idea of suffocation or restriction also comes through in the lyrics of Mockingbirds in One's Neck. That suffocation is then layered with the concept of the audience somehow distorting the meaning or sound of the artist's words, making it so that even the artist cannot replicate the sound of that chorus for better or for worse. In the song We're in Love and Boy Genius's most recent album, which of course I'll get round to, the record, Lucy sings, "And I'll be feeling lonely, so I'll walk to karaoke, sing the song you wrote about me, never once checking the words. I hope that no one sings along. I hope that I'm not a regular." Expressing fear that something as intimate as a song written to her by a friend could be co-opted by a fan. The idea of someone singing along feels like a violation of the sacredness and meaning that these songs have for the artist. So again, showing even more so that this song, again, could be about the fans. So yeah, interesting. I just thought that was really interesting. I was so glad to read that because I was like, oh, I think it's had a lot of stuff in there that I might not have understood just by looking at it. I feel like you have to kind of know Boy Genius a lot more to understand in a way. So I was glad to get that little bit of info. In the second half of the chorus, Julian pitches her voice into a beautiful mixed voice and she sings, "I'm gnashing my teeth like a child of Cain." And Phoebe harmonizes with her, sounding just as strong and powerful actually, not like obviously hitting those but in her chest voice she's powerful with it and the harmony is strong. She's very confident in what she's singing and like, oh, it just sounds so beautiful.
Whoa.
But yeah, I also clicked on that to get some information because I am not familiar with the Bible. I am just not. I didn't grow up reading the Bible, nothing like that. I went to a school where we had to do like prayers and singing Christian songs and stuff, but it wasn't like overly. I mean, we had like pastors and preachers and all sorts come to school and do assemblies and tell us stories, but it really wasn't like a we must go to church and all that. No. So it was like I don't really know anything about the Bible. I probably tuned out in those assemblies and was just like, yeah, whatever. Someone wrote about the gnashing teeth line saying, "Gnashing of teeth is a phrase from the Bible often used in the context of describing hell. They will throw them into a blazing furnace." Do you know what? Can I just say, I think I've learned more about the freaking Bible doing reaction videos than I have ever in my life because like there's so many songs that like refer to the Bible and I don't know whether it's just an American thing. It's crazy. I've learned way more about it and it's absolutely exited my brain every time I learn something, but I do still learn more about it through my reactions to music than any other time in my life. But anyway, gnashing of teeth is a phrase from the Bible often used in the context of describing hell. They will throw them into the blazing furnace where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Matthew 13:42 NIV. Cain is the firstborn son of Adam and Eve, most notably famous for killing his brother Abel, as chronicled in Genesis 4 of the Hebrew Bible or Old Testament. As punishment, God cursed Cain to a life of wandering before settling to build a city where he bore his son, Enoch. In the extra-biblical book of Enoch, it describes the soul of Abel as chief of martyrs crying for vengeance for the destruction of the seed of Cain. Cain's lineage would later end after 5 generations. Julian Baker is likely comparing her suffering to that of Cain's family, cursed by God. Interesting. Or maybe it feels like, she's being thrown to the hound sort of thing, being thrown in to the gnashing teeth like the child of Cain was. And that could replicate like the fans and fame and stuff like that. Yeah, feeling condemned to never having a true personal life, if that makes sense. I don't know. But then they say, if this is a prison, I'm willing to buy my own chains. And when I was looking at the lyrics on Spotify, it said burn my own chains. Then I went to Genius and it said buy my own chains. So I looked at the comment section and a lot of them were saying it's buy my own chains. And that makes a lot more sense because they're saying like, even though it feels like a prison and it feels like hell sometimes, I'm willing to buy my own chains. So I'm willing to carry on. I'm willing to proceed in this industry because there is still a lot of love for it too, but it can be hard, basically. It's again the contrast of the distortion and the calm guitar, and then the contrast of the lyrics. There's so much contrast in this. In the second part of the verse, there is a wailing, distorted guitar that runs through it, that continues into the chorus, and then plays through the outro too, turning into more of like a solo. There's so much reverb on it that the notes are swallowed up a bit, but not enough to be drowned out, just in a perfectly dreamy way. And that is Julian playing the electric guitar, which I found out during my reaction video.
Wow. All that distortion is insane. From an interview with The Muse, Dacus. Oh, hell yeah, it was for pushing. For me, the second song I brought in was Salt in the Wound, which I wrote in the studio day 2. I think it was a product of the place. We played it live once now, and Julian is doing this ripping solo that I would have never allowed on my album. But it's my favourite moment, and he didn't even want to do it. And then Baker says, in the studio, I was like, this is cheesy. And then Dacus says, and we were like, wags finger, nah, you have to do this. And you too, Phoebe, were like, I've never belted this high at the end of my range. And me and Julian were just bumping while you were just fist bumping while recording. That's so cool. I love that she really got to belt it out and realize that she can do it, you know. That's cool. And with the support of her friends and so on, and all singers as well, they all can bounce off each other and take each other to new heights, which is so cool. Bridget says, because at the end of the take I'd be like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, it was horrible. And Dacre says, and I'd be screaming, so that felt like a true victory to me. Oh, that's so cool. And it did sound absolutely fantastic, the way that then almost like it's trying to get over the top of this like music that is kind of drowning them, but not in a bad way. Like, you know the way I mean.
The outro lyrics read, they say the heart and minds are on your side. They say the finish line is in your sights. What they don't say is what's on the other side. It feels like the girls have been told that things will get better, or if they just get over this hump, it will be different, but they're still worried about what that means. Like, yeah, you can say it's going to get better and it'll be different, but once I get there, what even is the other side? I think it's a line that is kind of beautiful when you first hear it. And it's like, oh yeah, but normally when you are on the other side, you don't think about it because you're there. You know, you don't think what's it going to be because you're already there. You're happy and you're like, oh, this is what the other side looks like. The other side is happiness, but it can be daunting when you're in such a bad place and someone says it will get better because you're going, how? When? What will happen to make it better? What's going to, it's the anxiety of how it's going to be better, what's going to change. And I also found this written by the same person who did the last bit about the Bible. They're called Brookiana and they're on Genius. And I thought they actually had some really smart stuff written, so I did want to kind of mention them. The phrase hearts and minds refers not to a singular person in someone's corner, but rather is a concept occasionally expressed in the resolution of war, insurgency and other conflicts, in which one side seeks to prevail not by the use of superior force, but by making emotional or intellectual appeals to sway supporters of the other side. Boygenius states that they have been told that they have the metaphorical support of the people, yet the band expresses that instead of feeling like fans are running for them, it feels like they are running against them. They have heard that they are nearing the apex of their fame and glory, yet no one expresses the toll that takes on people experiencing that rise to fame. The band expresses a feeling of being deceived by not being told what's on the other side of fame and success, which in their eyes seems to be a life of intrusion and violation. Absolutely, you couldn't even said it any better. And it was really nice to hear about that little war bit. That was interesting. Just so good. So yeah, that was Brookiana on Genius who wrote that. So yeah, that was Salt in the Wound. Okay, now we got the last song, and it's called Ketchum ID. I have no idea what that means. I don't think I even looked into it. I think I just wrote it down like Ketchum ID, that's a song, but I never actually looked at why it was called that. Probably should have done that, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, the song literally starts with one of the girls saying K, And so you instantly know it's kind of going to be a raw song that is just recorded. It's not produced in a way that the other songs are. It was just a recording of them playing live, basically. And when I say live, I don't mean live on a stage. I mean just a live recording of them in a room, wherever they are, singing together. And we've got an acoustic guitar playing throughout the whole song. Nothing else really, apart from the vocals and acoustic guitar. We have a truly stripped back version, and I loved it. And I thought the whole album was going to be like that, but it wasn't. And then when a song like that did come at the end, I was like, oh yeah, this is how I imagined it to be. But I was happy to have that one at the end.
Oh, see, this feels very raw. It's nice to have that as a last song, like a more of a live version.
So yeah, first we have Phoebe coming in, singing about how she is back in the States now. She has arrived in a college town. She would walk, but it's tipping it down with rain, basically. She is mesmerised by the yellow lines. I had to do some research about that, actually, because in the UK we have yellow lines, but they are, the ones I'm thinking of are like the double yellow lines on the side of the road near pavements, and it's basically means you can't park there. You can drop people off there, or maybe do like a momentary, like couple minutes if you're still in the car with the engine running sort of situation, but you can't park there. So I was like confused. But then it seems like in America the yellow lines are like to do with like dividing traffic and stuff like that. I'm not too sure, but it's very different. But yeah, she was saying she's mesmerized by them and about how it feels like walking a tightrope because it's complicated. Maybe she'd been driving in areas that aren't in the States that are a lot easier to drive in. Maybe she was driving in places where it was like, oh, this is smooth, it's less like restricted or something. Or maybe she's just getting used to driving in America again. I don't know, but I did like that verse a lot. I really did. And it was nice hearing a song start with Phoebe again after having quite a lot with the other girls, if you know what I mean. Like it felt like, oh, Phoebe, yay, you're back. And then the harmonious chorus comes in with that barbershop melody again, actually, yeah. And it sounds like a lullaby as well.
Oh my god. Oh, the harmonies are so nice.
All the girls sing about how they are always on the road and rarely get time to be at home. I found this interesting because the main theme that what have I said throughout this bloody EP? I've literally said about how every song has a travelling feeling. Feels like you're constantly moving. Then they have a song about literally constantly being on the move, being on the go, never being home. I was like, that's so weird. It really, how like the music really ties into everything that they were going through, sort of thing, like being constantly on the road. I don't know whether they did that on purpose or it was subconsciously happening because it was their life at the time. But yeah, this song doesn't have that travelling feeling. This song has a bit more of a relaxed feeling. This feels like they have stopped. And actually, if you think about the verse, she was literally, I know she was saying she was driving in America, but she is like technically back. When she says back in the States, it's like she's back home. It's not like she's traveling all over anymore. So the song doesn't have that traveling feeling anymore. It was a lot more just relaxed, a bit more of like a moment, but it didn't feel like oh, we're finally at home, oh, we can all relax. It felt like a moment, not a long time, just a little moment to breathe for a minute, maybe to catch some rest, maybe to see some family, maybe to just be on your own for a little bit. It felt like that, and I liked that. Oh yeah, but then in the second verse, it sounds like Julian is saying she feels very alone on the road. Even if she might have a partner at home, it doesn't matter once you're on the road. They're so far away, it feels pointless. She even says, like, something about being in love is being alone. Being in love is being alone. When she's calling them, it feels like she's not really got a lot to say. And she's like, what do you want from me? I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Like, it doesn't feel the same. We're not together. Like, I get it. I hate talking on the phone. I hate talking through text. I hate talking through any kind of messaging sort of thing. I really don't like it. I like seeing face to face is just so much better. But yeah, she's struggling with that. But then she does also say sorrow loves company. So she still rings her ex-partner because that's what she's meant to do, and sometimes if she's sad missing them, at least hearing their voice is enough, but it still feels like she's not quite, she kind of doesn't want to be in it, I don't think. But it's not because she doesn't love them anymore, it's because it's too hard while being on the road. She just doesn't feel close, and that's the main point, right? When you're in a relationship, you want to feel close to someone, you want to have quality time together, and you can't really do that over the phone. And also, I do realise people have long, distance relationships, and it works, but I couldn't do it, and I've never really met anyone where it's fully worked. I'd love to know if you're in one, because I don't know, it'd be nice to know that there's some actual success stories around it, and maybe you do really amazing things when you do see each other, or I don't know. I'd find that very, very hard. It might be nice, because I know some people have partners that work away for months at a time, and they stay together and they're married, and then they come back and have the best time, really nice time, and then they go off again. It works for some people. Then in Lucy Dacus's verse, it has a similar ring to it, but instead it feels like the person she's talking to kind of isn't too bothered about talking to her, because they go like, "How are you?" And then she's like, "I don't know, I think we need to dissolve the band and move to Idaho." Clearly stating that she's struggling, and she can hear through the phone that the person she's talking to is surrounded by lots of people, and she can hear the smile in their voice. She can hear them smiling or laughing at someone, as if they're not listening. That's how I took it. And then they just go, "Oh, I love you," as if they never heard what she said, and she just goes, "You too." She realizes they're not really listening or that bothered about talking to her or hearing her problems. They're having fun without her. And then she hangs up, probably feeling very lonely. So that's what I got from that verse. I did read on Genius that someone wrote that she isn't really caring about them anymore, but I think it's the other way, where the person she's ringing isn't really too bothered about her anymore. That's how I see it. But then, yeah, we have a beautiful double chorus divided by a ooh little moment, little oohs.
Wow. So dreamy.
It truly is like a lullaby, really it is. I know I've said that so many times, but it is. And yeah, that's the end, basically. The total sad girl EP. I think it's wonderful. I am hearing that the record is just even better. Everyone keeps telling me the record's so good. The record, as in their album. So I'm very excited to get into that. This is my first ever review ever. And it was really fun to do it on Boy Genius. And I chose Boy Genius because it was a short EP, and I thought, yeah, I can do this. Yeah, I really hope you enjoyed the review and it wasn't too boring or anything. It will be long, that's for sure. You know me, it was never going to be short. But yeah, thank you. If you did watch to the end, it really means a lot that you are sticking by me on this journey. I know there's going to be a lot of changes in my views and subscribers and the way things are going to go, but I really had to do something. I could carry on doing reaction videos and risk it with the copyright stuff. I've already got a copyright strike on my channel. If I get another one, doesn't look good. I won't be able to post for 2 weeks, and I've got another one, my channel is taken down. So I just wanted to give it a break and try reviews instead. And of course, I've got my reactions on Patreon. They are never a bother, because I don't ever have to worry about the silly copyright stuff of YouTube. I can just post it and get on with my day, so even though this does take longer in a way, well, it really does, but it's fulfilling for now. But we'll see. Let's not count on anything. Let's just enjoy the present and what's happening. But thank you again. If you did enjoy this, do like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, become a patron. Any of those things really helps me out. And yes, my poem will be in the description if you did want to read. But yes, anyway, I shall see you next time. Bye.